Who you going to say hi to? You say Marty.
Marty. Hey, Marty.
And who else?
Hey, Carol. Hey, John.
No, well, John, but Mr. Don.
Mr. John. Don.
Yeah.
Who?
That's it. Who else you going to say hi to?
This everybody.
Everybody? Let's say, hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody!
Hi,
Okay.
whoever's watching.
All right. Can you tell them bye?
Bye. See you next week.
Next year. You'll see them next week.
See you next week.
Next week and then next year, too.
All right. Go play.
What's next year mean?
Next year means next year. Go.
Next year? Next year.
Next year. Go play.
Let's go finish my food.
All right. Sorry, we're trying to get back into the groove. It's been, I guess, 3 weeks with all that has happened. We'll just say life has happened. With all that has happened the last 3 weeks, we're trying to get back into the routine. So it is a new year. I'm thankful for the ones who are watching. I have lost count on how many years we have done this, but we are going to continue with unsung heroes and some few villains of the Bible. We're talking about the men of the Bible. And this one, I will be honest, that we're studying today, I didn't even know about it. Even when I went back and read the plot, read the storyline, read the account, read what it was about, I still did not remember ever reading this name. And that just, I think I'm getting old, because every week when I do these devos, or when I study for a lesson, I think, oh, I never caught that before. And I've heard that all my life. It don't matter how many times you read the Bible or read the same story, you're going to catch something that you've never caught before. And that is happening to me a lot lately. So I don't know if that's just my lack of attention, or if I am, hopefully the plus side is we're growing. But hopefully this study will help you all too. But the one we're talking about today is a servant who desired riches. It's talking about greed, and it's Gehazi. And we're in 2 Kings. We stay in 2 Kings. We're going to be in 2 Kings chapter 4, 1 through 37, chapter 5, 1 through 27, and chapter 8, verses 4 and 5. And we find out that Gehazi was Elisha's trusted servant. And I remember Elisha. We all know the story of Elisha. That's a name that is common to us. But Gehazi was not. And he was one of Elisha's servants that went everywhere with him when he preached. When Elisha went to preach, Gehazi was the number one man beside him. He always went with him. So one time, Elisha and Gehazi were traveling. They were tired. They were hot. They were hungry. He had been preaching. And a lady from Shunem said, hey, we really like what you're doing. We like what you said. We want to host you for the night. This is Paula's terms. We're going to put you up for the night. We're going to put you up for a while. We're going to provide you with a warm meal. We're going to provide you with a bed to lay down on. We're going to provide you for a comfort of a home. And that was, I don't want to say uncommon, but I guess it was uncommon because they were traveling. It's not, I remember when I first started dating Matt, when you went somewhere, you did not stay in a hotel. You stayed at so-and-so's house of the church. And the very first time I went to Soligent, I stayed at a member's house, and I thought that was so odd. Because, I mean, from Louisville, you go to a hotel. You don't stay at anybody's house. You don't house anybody. But down in Soligent, number one, there is no hotel, but you stayed in a member's home. When we moved to New Hope, we had someone traveling, and to my surprise, we were supposed to open up our house and let them stay. Now, they chose not to because of certain health reasons, but that was a big eye-opener to me. So this was more common back then than it is now, but it wasn't the usual. They did not just take in strangers all the time. But this lady wanted to do something for Elisha, and so she decided to open up her house. Well, Elisha was very grateful. But how do you repair? And the whole time I was reading this, I was thinking, okay, man and woman. If it was a man-to-man, they could have shook hands, they could have talked, they may have exchanged a knife or whatever. It's a man thing. If it was woman-to-woman, they could have exchanged baked goods, or they could have exchanged recipes, or they could have traded something. But you've got a male and a female. So Elisha has to be careful because this woman is married. He doesn't want to overstep his bounds. That's not his intention. He doesn't want to lead her in the wrong direction. None of that was going on, but you've got to be careful because you have a male and a female. So Elisha and Gehazi, his servant, get together and how are we going to repay these people? Well, Gehazi goes to Elisha and says, hey, I thought of something. How about they get blessed with a child? And sure enough, the Lord provided them with a child. They had a child. Everything was great. The woman was so thankful to Elisha, but then the kid got sick. Her child got sick. Not only did he get sick, he died. So now all of a sudden this joyful event has turned into anger, resentment. So she immediately goes to find Elisha. Elisha sends Gehazi and says, okay, go heal him, go check out the situation. I'll be there, a few days after you. Gehazi gets there, he does what he needs to do. This child's dead. There's nothing he can do to bring this child back to life. Yes, it was a fact, the child is dead. So Gehazi goes back and gets Elisha. Elisha then comes to see for himself. Elisha then lays himself on top of this child, and he lays there until this child has breath of life in him. Then Elisha's not even the one to go tell the mother. He sends Gehazi to tell the mother, your son is alive, your son is well, everything is all good for right now. So that's a good account of Gehazi. We're thinking, okay, well, how is this a servant who desired riches? Well, we keep reading. The next account of Gehazi stays with Elisha. I'm going to call him his right-hand man. He's right there with him. The next time we hear of Gehazi is the story of Naaman. Now, we know him. We know he was covered with leprosy. We know that his servant girl went to Naaman's wife and said, hey, I know somebody that can help him. His name is Elisha. We know how the story plays out. Naaman gets mad. Elisha tells Naaman, hey, you need to go to the Jordan River, wash 7 times or dip 7 times. The 7th time you come up, you'll be cleansed. Naaman doesn't want to do that. He thinks he's too good for that. He wanted it, just snap your fingers and leprosy is gone. And that's not how it happened. But even though he didn't want to, Naaman did go to the Jordan River. Jordan River was not clean. It was dirty. He's thinking, how in the world is this going to get rid of this? But he did it. He did it 7 times. The 7th time he came up and he was healed. Now this is where Gehazi comes in. We have Naaman who is upset, who's saying, okay, Elisha, you're out of your mind. You're crazy. I'm not going to go to the Jordan River. This is not going to help me. They convince him to go. He does. And all of a sudden, just like a light bulb, just like the Shunammite woman, she's happy when her child is alive. She's mad when the child's dead. And then she's happy again. Naaman, mad that he got leprosy. He's ecstatic now that he is healed and he can go back to his everyday duties and being who he wants to be. Naturally, again, just like the Shunammite woman, she wanted to repay. Naaman wants to repay. Elisha says, no, I'm not doing this for money. I'm not doing this for anything. I'm doing it's because it's what I was told to do. Gehazi's standing there listening to all this. Gehazi's standing there and he's thinking, man, what could I do with all of this that Naaman is offering Elisha? Surely Elisha saving Naaman's life is worth something. Wish that was me. Wish this guy was offering. I wouldn't turn that down. I would take it in a heartbeat. Well, they start traveling along, and Gehazi goes back to Naaman. And this is where the Greek comes in. He goes up to Naaman, and he lies. And he says, Elisha needs the silver and the clothes you offered because we just have 2 young prophets who just arrived. And we need to have money for them. We need to have clothing for them. We need to provide for them. Elisha's changed his mind. He really needs that payment from you. He really would like to accept your thankful gift. Well, Naaman, he's rich. It doesn't matter to him. It's money. He has plenty of it. He doubles it. He gives Gehazi double the amount of silver he was going to give Elisha. The amount of silver that he was going to give Elisha was $10 million. Equaled $10 million. Naaman doubled it when Gehazi came back. $20 million just in the silver, not in the other things. Gehazi was set for life. He let the greed get to him. He was on top of the world. Well, let's see, we lied because we don't have the 2 prophets that we said we had. that we need all this money and clothing for and all this stuff to provide for him. We don't have it. Now we've got all this silver. What are we going to do with it? How are we going to hide it? We got to get back to Elisha. Elisha's going to start wondering, where am I? I can't go back to Elisha with all this money because then Elisha's going to know that I've done something wrong. So I've got to hide it along the way. Do we see the downward spiral that's happening? The greed, the money, the dollar signs that went off in Gehazi's mind, it's spiraling out of control. So Naaman, like we said, he doubled the amount of silver. Gehazi now has this issue of, he's like, okay, I'm on top of the world, but now I got to hide it. I've got to do something with it. And the Bible just says he did something with it in secret. I do not know what that means. I don't know if he buried it somewhere, if he put it in someone's home, if he trusted it. I don't know what he did with it. But he put it in secret. And then he goes back up to Elisha. And he's thinking Elisha has no clue that Elisha didn't see him go back to Naaman. And when he gets back, Elisha says, now this is Gehazi. Now he went in and stood before his master. Elisha said to him, where did you go, Gehazi? And he said, your master did not go anywhere. Then he said to him, did not my heart go with you when the man turned back from his chariot to meet you? Is it time to receive money and to receive clothing, olive groves and vineyards, sheep and oxen, male and female servants? Therefore the leprosy of Naaman shall cling to you and your descendants forever. And he went out from his presence leprous, as white as snow. And we see that in 2 Kings 5:25 and 27. So little did Gehazi know, Elisha knew. Elisha knew he went back to Naaman. He knew what Gehazi did was wrong. Gehazi did not get away with it. And in return, Gehazi was turned into a leper. Naaman's leprosy, he got rid of it. Now Gehazi has it. Okay? Gehazi did not intend for it to go this far. He had good intentions. He did not mean, but again, greed, the money signs, the dollar signs. Hey, that sounds good. Look at what I could do with this. I could go here. I could go there. I could do all this stuff. He didn't think about the consequences. Well, now, yeah, he's got all the money, but now he's a leper. He can't do anything. He can't be around anybody. His life has been totally changed. So there are 3 or 4 things we can learn from Gehazi. Learn from being greedy. The first one is the sin of greed can pull a good man down. He was good when he was with Elisha, when Elisha was preaching and teaching, and the Shunammite woman kept him, let him stay in their house. He was good. He was following the right path. But by the time they run into Naaman, he had changed. He started going down the wrong path. We got to be careful of that. The greed pulled him down. The money signs pulled him down. 1 Timothy 6:10 warns that the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Money in itself is not evil, but desiring riches above all else can make us lose sight of what is truly important. Mark 8:36-37. For what will profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Don't you think that's kind of what Elisha's telling to Gehazi? What profit did you gain? You have all this money, but what you did was completely wrong. You're now a leper. You've went the wrong way. You can say, just for the point, he lost his soul for a little bit, didn't he? He left the straight and narrow. He did something wrong. He let greed take control. It wasn't letting him think straight. Greed is an ugly monster. It pushes way into our thoughts and leads us away from God. Nothing good comes from greed. The second thing we can learn, one sin leads to another. And there's 2 accounts that I want to talk about this. One is Gehazi, because that's who we're talking about. That's our greed person today. He started with greed. What happened? First, he wanted riches for himself. Well, he wanted it so bad that it made him tell a lie. He had to go to Naaman and lie, saying that Elisha wanted the repayment or wanted the money, even when Elisha didn't want it. Then that lie cheated Naaman, because now Naaman doubled the gifts and Gehazi accepted the gifts. So we've cheated Naaman out of stuff that he did not have to give. And then lastly, it didn't end there. He had to go back. He lied to Elisha because Elisha's like, where have you been? Oh, I don't know. I ain't been anywhere. What do you mean? I never left. What are you talking about? So then he lied to Elisha, and then he got struck with leprosy. So all of this greed spiraled out of control. If he didn't want that money, he never would have had to tell the lie to Elisha about where he'd been. He never would have cheated Naaman out of his belongings, and he never would have had to have lied to Elisha, and he never would have had leprosy. Now, Gehazi's not the only one. Let's think about David. David's greed. But David's greed wasn't money. It was a woman. David, he lusted for Bathsheba. What did that lust lead to? It led to him committing adultery. What did that do? His adultery led him to have a plan to cover up his sin. So we lusted. We acted on the lust, so we committed a sin. Now that we committed a sin, we got to make a plan to cover up that sin. And then that plan to cover up that sin ended up being the death of Bathsheba's husband, Uriah. None of which was good. Why? Greedy. We wanted a woman that we couldn't get. Or couldn't have. He got her all right, but he couldn't have. Shouldn't have wanted. Shouldn't have had. But he got it. Just like Gehazi. Gehazi didn't end well. David and Bathsheba didn't end well. Uriah ended up dying. So we have to be careful. We can't let greed make us, because greed's going to lead to sin. Sin's going to make us lead to another sin, to another sin, to another sin. The last thing, we are responsible for our actions, even if those around us are righteous. Okay, so Gehazi's with Elisha. Elisha did nothing wrong. Gehazi is still responsible. Even though Elisha's an upright man, Elisha's a good man, Elisha cannot take the sins of Gehazi. He can't. We're all held accountable for our own sins. Elisha could not save Gehazi. I cannot save you. You can't save me. I can't save my kids. I can't save my husband. I can show you. I can be there for you. I can learn with you. I can study with you. I can try to get you there. But it's up to you. No one else. We can't blame. I hear so many times, well, I did this because my daddy did this. I did this. I'm an alcoholic because my grandfather was an alcoholic. I'm an abuser because I've been abused all my life. I am a fill in the blank because of so-and-so and so-and-so. It's my environment. It's never our fault. Well, it is. It is only up to us whether we get to heaven. If we make it, it is up to us. God's ready for us. God's never changing. God is there. God tells us what we got to do. Are we going to do it? My husband can't do it for me. My kids can't do it for me. My neighbors can't do it for me. My coworkers can't do it for me. I can't just go in on the shirt tails of somebody. I've got to do it myself. So we are all responsible for our actions. When we get angry and we hurt somebody, we can't blame anybody but ourselves, or hurt something, or break something, or whatever. Or if we hurt somebody's feelings, that's not their fault. It's our fault. It came out of our mouths, didn't it? Or it was our words that said it, whether through text, social media, whatever. We did it. We're responsible. In the beginning, Gehazi was faithful, but greed took over. Then once greed got a hold of him, sin came in. Just like David. Once greed, the lust, got in, then what happened? He had the sin, and then he just kept sinning and kept sinning. Same way with us. We got to be careful that we don't let greed take a hold of us, because once we let greed take a hold of us, then the sins start happening, then the lies start happening to cover up that sin, and you got to have another lie to cover up the first lie, and then pretty soon you've lied so much you don't know what lie you said to cover up what lie. So we've got to be careful. So, and I think just like we do not know what happened to Gehazi. We don't know if he died of leprosy, if he just had leprosy for a little while. We are never told. But in just the short things we do know about him, he seemed good. He was good. But one little sin made him take a wrong turn. We have to be careful of that. We have to be careful of the greed. Next week, we are going to talk about the man who touched Elisha's bones, a second chance at life. So I thank you all for listening. I hope you all have a great week. I know I'm a week late, but I hope your all's new year has started off well. Hopefully this week will be a good week as well, and I will see you all here next week. Thank you for listening.